All right, welcome to this episode of the Joyful Scaling Podcast. Today, we're talking about women in wealth, and in particular, wealth with meaning. Today, we're speaking with Stephanie Vokral, who has two businesses advising high net worth women on financial life events like divorce, loss of spouse, or retirement. She has been a financial advisor for 25 years in the Columbia, South Carolina area, so not too far from me. She owns CT Wealth Advisors and the Financial Knot LLC. As a certified financial planner, or CFP, Stephanie helps her clients go from being confused about their financial situation to feeling empowered with a realistic plan for their future. She helps her clients understand where they stand today and, importantly, make the tough decisions needed to feel confident with a new beginning. Her proven process fosters more life, less stress. Who wouldn't want that, right? So Stephanie has completed specialized educational programs in divorce, professional divorce analysis to be a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. Over the years, she's worked successfully with hundreds of clients to prepare their financial affidavits for court. And if you've never gone through divorce, you have no idea what that is, but it is super, super important. She's aided in mediations and she's advised on property settlement issues. Additionally, she is a trained South Carolina family court mediator and a South Carolina collaborative divorce professional. Stephanie is the only professional in the divorce process who is not transactional, meaning she stays with the client when the divorce is over in many cases to assist with post-divorce items in a client's marital settlement agreement. Stephanie, by the way, is one of my clients, and I just absolutely love her. I had to throw that in there if you're like, wow, why? She's amazing, isn't she? All right, let me finish this bio. She is a member of the South Carolina Financial Planning Association, the Association of Divorce Financial Planners, the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals, and South Carolina Academy of Collaborative Professionals. These days, you will find her with her husband, Jason, and her daughter, Anna Caroline, walking on the beach, hiking, playing cards, and playing tennis. She's an active member of Columbia Crossroads Church in Chapin, South Carolina. Okay. Now,
Chapin, yes.
Chapin, I just have one more thing to say, and here's a disclaimer, okay, because we're talking about money. Obviously, any information Stephanie may discuss today is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax or legal advice. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. So with all of that, let's give a very warm welcome to Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. You did great. That's so long. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I just so admire so much about you. Like, you are so super smart. And what's amazing is, you know, as a lawyer, I've been around super smart people, but you have this heart of gold. Aww. And in being in rooms with you, like when we were, all the masterminders were together, you are very mindful. When you're talking about this is not transactional, this is relational, that's like, you can't even say that enough for you, because when things happened in a room, I mean, really, they have, ladies, if you're listening and you haven't listened to whatever episode that is, that's called Masterminders, I think that's the title, go look for it. It's 320 something, but you will hear like Stephanie's heart. She makes it a point to make everybody feel loved and comfortable. So Stephanie, it's an honor to have you here.
Oh, thanks. I'm super excited to be here because I feel the same. I have known you, I guess, almost a year and a half now. We've been working together, and yeah, it's been great. I've had other coaches, and you can't compare. So I say that because most of them are just fluffy pie in the sky kind of mindset things, but we actually do stuff and get stuff done. And I love that. So
yes, getting it done. Just last night I said, honey, you know what? Ooh, I'd love to get stuff done. That's what I say. And he's like, rolling his eyes. I go,
get it done.
What do you think about that, hon? Does it annoy you or are you happy? Anyway, so let's talk about wealth with meaning. So tell everybody, they heard about your credentials, but tell us about your background and specifically how you came to this line of work.
Yeah, so I started in this business 25 years ago. You know, I originally was in social work and was a team leader at a children's home. And I was working myself to death. I wanted to help people. And my dad was a financial advisor. And he's like, you know, I help people all the time, come to work with me. And so that's really how I got started in my career. in, let's see, 1998, I'm going to age myself. And then I went through my own divorce in 2004. And that was very life-changing because I was a financial advisor, and the math in divorce was just, it was just hard to understand. And it's legal. But we're in an equitable distribution state. So that basically is saying that you split property 50-50 with your spouse, and it's marital property 50-50. And so, the math was hard for me to understand. And I was a financial advisor, so it gave me a lot of compassion for the non-financial spouse. And we, being in the South, my mom was always the non-financial spouse. Women traditionally have been the non-financial spouse, and we still struggle, and so it gave me a lot of compassion for them. And I'll just be honest, helping them to understand the wealth that they have when they go through a major life transition like divorce, loss of a spouse, even retirement, empty nesting, losing a job. There are all kinds of life transitions that can be a windfall of money and wealth. And largely women just don't know what to do with that. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it. I certainly have a lot of statistics to share with you about that too. So
yeah, let's get into those because they're really astounding. Yeah.
Well, for one, just starting off with divorce, when a woman goes through divorce, it's estimated that she loses about 41% of her household income. And that is really staggering. Some other strong statistics that support women needing guidance are surrounding, loss of a spouse. And so 80% of men die married, 80% of women die single. The average age of a widow is 59. That's just 6 years away for me. Want to keep my husband around a long time, but and the other one is like 70% of married baby boomer wives will experience widowhood. It's also estimated that 15% of women's working years are spent either with ailing parents or with childcare. And so we need more money because we live longer, but we are not able to work the same amount of years because we are caring for those that we love. So that means loss in benefits like retirement, savings. And so we need more money, but then we're not able to do that as much. And I get really excited about this because the potential here is so great for us as women, because there are some new staggering statistics that are coming out, and I can get into it in a minute, largely because of aging baby boomers. It's estimated that about $20 trillion is going to pass from baby boomers to the next generation over the next 20 years. And so women are largely in control of the wealth now. One of the highest statistics that I've seen is an estimate that women actually own about 60% of the wealth in the US. The other one, though, and this is the last one I'm gonna share, is that there was a study by BlackRock. And BlackRock is just a very large money manager, financial money manager in the United States. In 2020, they did a survey with women, and that survey showed that about 55% of women say that wealth and money are not for somebody like me. So we need it more. We live longer. We're caring for the loved ones. It's estimated women make 80% of the decisions for retail purchasing in this United States. So we drive the economy in the United States, but yet 55% of us don't feel like this wealth is for us. And so clearly this is a really big focus of my practice. We focus on helping women understand their why, using their time, talent, and their treasure to understand why. What gets me out of bed every morning? If I'm not married anymore because I've lost my husband or we're divorced, I mean, this can even be a married woman. What's my purpose? Why am I getting out of bed every morning? We help them understand that so that their wealth has meaning. And that's just really important because we know that women need guidance.
So good.
Yeah.
I do want to land on that. The thought, you know how I am about thoughts, right? Our thoughts determine everything that's happening
right.
in our lives.
Yes.
So if 55% of women, and I would venture to say entrepreneurial women as well, and I think even more so in the Christian community because of what we've been told in the church and in our families, right? It's just kind of like, I don't like the word conditioning, but maybe that is the proper scientific word. But if we're thinking wealth is not for me, that's not a helpful thought. It doesn't serve us. And also it comes down to a definition of wealth. So let's talk about that for just a second. How do you define wealth?
Yeah, so it's not just how much money you have in the bank or investments or property. It's not like quantities in large sums even, but it's anything above what your normal spending is. So it is, even if you have a large amount of money that you're not using and creating savings and investments, it's your money that you're giving away to causes that you care about and that you love. So wealth it's giving, it is your time. You have a wealth of talent, or you can have a wealth of time. A lot of retirees have a lot of time, and so it is helping them to see that as their wealth as well. So it's your time, your talent, and your treasure. All of those things make up the wealth of the person, that God has created you. And so understanding your passions and how he's uniquely designed you for such a time as this is just so important for women to understand.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to dive deeper in this thing called wealth, because why does it seem, I mean, you deal with this topic, wealth and women, like every day. So why does it seem that wealth is this taboo subject, and why is that? And how are you helping to change that? Or how can we even have that shift of mindset and perspective?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I'm a Gen Xer, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, she's one of the hardest working women I know, but the culture, especially within the church, that creates is a mindset of those things being for men. And so it's really having voices like yours and mine that help women to understand it's actually going to, statistically speaking, it's going to be yours one day. So you really need, especially after the statistics I shared earlier, you really need to understand some basic concepts, or have a support team around you who can help you lean into that when it's more of yours to manage and more of that responsibility. But I would say a great way is particularly if you're married, is to ask to be invited to those meetings. If your family or you and your husband have a financial advisor, ask to go to the meetings, and then have some questions that you have prepared for the meeting. And it might just be something simple, like a lot of women want to understand what do we have? Can I have a summary that helps me understand what we do have? And just having those questions that you give to your spouse and maybe email to your financial advisor ahead of time. Being a financial advisor, that is so helpful. And I just love it when spouses come and ask great questions. So I would say it's a taboo subject because it's a very cultural thing, especially in the South, that we still run into a lot. And I know that you've got listeners to your podcast from all different types of backgrounds, but specifically if you are in the church, whatever denomination or church you're in, that culture has largely been patriarchal and still is very patriarchal. And it can be very intimidating to speak up and try to have a voice, but you do have a voice. Christ was very much about bringing women into his ministry and giving them a voice in a culture where they didn't have that. He had love and compassion on them. And I think the church does need to work on being more like that with women in a lot of different ways. But it is just being polite and respectful and using the voice that God gave us and asking good questions and seek to understand. I think that's a great starting place for women.
So good. I love that. Ask questions. You know, I've heard it said, and I've repeated it, that the quality of your life in large part is determined by the quality of your questions. And so
that's great.
I don't want to be a passive player in my own.
That's right.
House has, your collective dollars, invested. You need to make yourself knowing about that. So
there is a great study, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Judy. There's a great study though that I've done with clients before. In fact, I've recently had some clients who have purchased this book and are going through it, but it's called The Intentional Woman, and you can get it on Amazon. And we can even put a link in your show notes if you want that show a link to that on Amazon. But it's a great book that walks you through your history of your life and your spiritual giftedness. It talks a lot about time, talent, and treasure. It's just a really great study that can help you be intentional about your life. Because I agree with you 100%.
That's so good.
I don't want life just to happen to me either.
That's right. We want to we know God's in control, but he rewards our faithful action, right? So that is so good. And let's not forget that wealthy women were walking with Christ and supported his ministry. So I'm all about, don't back away from that. And especially if you are an entrepreneur, and most of my listeners are entrepreneurs, or professionals in corporate, or, professionals outside of that, licensed professionals, never apologize.
Never.
For so, parable the talents. Don't bury that treasure, right?
Right.
Multiply it. Okay. Right. So, we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to ask and see how you think about this. Is there basic terminology when it comes to, investing or just looking at dollars and cents? Is there anything like that maybe we can impart upon our listeners just very briefly in that regard?
Sure. Can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, I don't know. Like years ago, my husband and I had a CFP, certified financial planner, but I felt like it was all based upon, you're this age, so we're going to plug you in here. And so I would ask questions and I'm like, yeah, but does that make sense because of this and that? And she was saying words that I didn't even understand what she was saying. So I didn't know if there might be some regular, words of the trade that maybe those of us that haven't really been schooled in it can know. And if not, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say there are some, and I'm an NPR fan. There's a great podcast on NPR called Financially Inclined, and it's actually designed for teenagers and college students or young professionals, but it's a great resource for those, like if you're riding down the road, you're just trying to learn basics about finance. It's a great resource, and it's called Financially Inclined, and it's on NPR. But there's lots of great books like, Investing for Dummies, and some really, great resources like that if you're just kind of trying to get started out. And Google is your friend. I mean, if you hear something, if you're in a conversation with somebody, I always encourage my clients, just make a note in your iPhone or your phone about what they said. And then, just ask them to repeat it. Say, do you mind repeating that? I'm going to write it down real quick. I haven't heard that before. I'm glad that you said that. I'm going to do some homework on that. Or if you don't feel like saying that, just make a mental note of the word that they used, like large cap growth, for instance, and then when you get in your car or you're back home or somewhere, just Google it. Google large cap growth. What does that mean exactly? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of words that in this industry, and I try my best not to just throw language around, but sometimes it does, it happens. And, it's good to have a reminder that not everybody understands what you're saying when you say that.
Yeah. Even super smart people, if they're not familiar with the terminology.
That's right. That's right. So those would be some good starting resources.
We're going to come back around and talk about your amazing freebie that you have for our listeners, the More Life Assessment. But I want to just spend a few minutes talking about your experience in working with me a little bit more specifically.
Oh, sure.
That's okay. All right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Would you mind sharing, when we started together, we first started kind of one-on-one before you jumped into the mastermind, what challenges were you experiencing in your business at that point?
I think the biggest one was overwhelm. I have two businesses, as you mentioned. One is specific to divorce financial planning called the Financial Knot, and the other is my wealth management practice where, I do have clients and manage portfolios and do financial planning. So it's a lot. And, we, because of your help, have taken this year to clean up our back end and really get things more automated. We were organized and gave great client service, but I was wearing myself out just because there were many different processes and things that were not as systematized, and they relied on me. And it's getting that stuff out of my head and getting it into a system and a process so that, I have less, I'm less overwhelmed. I'm whelmed, but not overwhelmed. And so that was probably the biggest thing. And then it was just, hiring and employees. I think that's always a tough one for business owners, is finding those key loyal employees that you want as your A team players,
Yes, absolutely. And then tell us about why you decided to jump into the mastermind, and maybe if you had fear around doing that or saying yes to any of this in working with me. And how you
I'm not a very fearful person. I mean, my daughter's about the only thing that I have a lot of fear about, but so the reason that I even started listening to your podcast or to you is because you were out there out loud talking about Jesus Christ. And I just don't know a lot of people who are doing that. It's such a foundation. My faith is so much a part of everything that I do, but you were out there speaking his name. And I loved that. There's a lot of coaches who would say they're Christian, but you actually are, praying before everything that we do. You prayed before we recorded this podcast. I mean, it's just, so I didn't have any fear, but it was just your boldness, You're talking about Jesus. You're a woman. Oh my gosh, you're an entrepreneur. Even better. I mean, it was just too good to be true, honestly.
Okay, awesome. All right. And we'll wrap this up by just, you mentioned very little in the beginning, but I just want to see if there was anything to elaborate on. How would you describe your experience of working with me, whether one-on-one or inside the mastermind? Like what might have been different specifically in working with me than some of your other coaches that you've had?
My other coaches, and I had two of them before I had you, were very much about your mindset, wanting to help you with your mindset. And I needed somebody, yes, the mindset work is incredible and you have that and it's great, but yours is biblical based and it's cognitive therapy. I mean, that is what the Bible is full of, is no, Christ gave me he gave me a new beginning. I can take that old thought and I can put it under the blood of Christ, and I have no truth, and this is the truth. That is not. I can have a new thought and decide to move forward. So you've got the mindset piece, but you have a portal that is full of, recordings that I can come back to, documents, resources. I mean, it is amazing. Plus the Facebook group where we have interactions with our peers. And even like this week, we had such a great session on Wednesday where we were really able to help a peer with, her sales of her process and really walk through that. And having that peer connection is amazing. But then the one-on-ones have been just incredible, and the co-working groups where we have time to work on one specific issue. I mean, those have been game changer for me. I've never had a coach that had those kind of resources. So, and then, just really helping us to problem solve. It's been a game changer for me.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. I know I hear all the time that my workbooks are like alone. If that was it, that would be amazing because they have the direct links to the templates, into the swipe files, into the spreadsheets, and the whatever. So yeah,
because you just have to walk through it and answer questions and have time to sit down and think. It's one of the things that you've taught me to do is to be quiet and to have time to really think and to do the hard work of answering those questions and walking through your workbook. But then you've got all of your marketing assets. You've got everything out of here and on and in systems and processes. It's been life-changing for me.
Well, thank you. And you've been an amazing client, obviously managing millions and millions of dollars. And, it's just been an honor. All right. So let's swing back to your amazing freebie that you have for our listeners, the More Life Assessment. Tell us about this amazing process.
Yeah, so this assessment is actually designed to help me understand where you are. And it is an offer for you to have a free 15 minutes with me for me to just, once you take the assessment, then having a call with me that helps you understand where I see you now and next steps that we can offer that would help you get to where you want to be. Because here's the thing, if women don't understand their why, they are going to continue to be stuck. And I think that Christ gives us our why. It's just tapping into that and really understanding what that looks like. And so the assessment is really, I've designed it so that you really don't have to think a lot. It gives you some examples, and hopefully it doesn't use a lot of big economic, crazy finance words that people go, what does she mean by that? I've tried to give you a lot of examples just to make the assessment really quickly really easy to walk through. You can get through it very quickly. And, but then that gives me an opportunity to see where you are and some potential next steps, that I think you could take, you know, whether it's some of the resources that we have, or even actually hiring me. Some of those resources are free, and not everybody will be the right fit. And I realize that, but at least it's a free 15 minutes to understand, here's possibly why you might be a little bit confused. Mm-hmm. And the assessment is designed to really give me information to help you understand that.
Yeah. And I love that. And I have looked through it myself, and I can tell you, I am not as literate in the finer points, but it was easy for me to do. You can complete this in just a matter of minutes. And it really is an amazing opportunity to spend some time with a very smart, sweet woman who is going to, help you develop a richer, more fulfilled life as a result of you getting clarity around what's really going on and where you are. And again, where you could be. So as we wrap up, Stephanie, I'm gonna leave the link for all of this inside the show notes, but where is, besides this assessment, where is a great place to contact you, so that anybody listening outside of the assessment can find you as well?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. And so a lot of what you'll see out there, especially on LinkedIn, is my divorce financial planning. You can reach out to me on that. Doesn't mean that I'm going to think you're going through a divorce, but also, and we are in the middle of redoing our website, so please be patient with us. But my website for the wealth management practice is www.aswetransition.com. And that's ASWE transition.com.
Okay, awesome. Now, is there anything that you have on your heart, Stephanie, that you wanted to share that we have not yet?
I think I have shared a lot. The only other thing that I would just say to your viewers is just to really make sure that they are understanding their why, and that they are asking questions and making sure that their voice is heard in a respectful manner, but just making sure that they are trying to use their voice that God gave them and really gain an understanding and asking good questions. There isn't a lot of resources out there for those of us who are Christian women. There's much more coming out. And there's a lot of great resources that I know that are in the development for women, especially Christian women in finance. So stay tuned for some of that. I'm involved in some of that, but I would just say to understand your why and to really make sure that you are asking some really good questions.
That is excellent. And I do have one last comment in light of what you just said.
Please.
You and I are built more bold, right? Like we're polite, but we speak up when we need to. Right. But for the ladies that may be listening, and they may be bold in some areas, but yet hesitant in others, or, do you have any advice for just getting over the fear and just doing it?
I would say that it starts here.
In your mind.
I think that really understanding for me and for other women that I know that are clients of mine, it's just understanding the deep, deep love that our Father has for you, and why he sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for us is because he loves us so much. And I find that for women in particular, that is the number one issue that keeps them from really growing in their life and being intentional.
So good. All right, Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom about the Lord and also about wealth for women. Ladies, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please do take advantage. Go check out the show notes now. Take advantage of that More Life assessment. And thank you, as always, for listening. Let us know what you think about this episode. If you haven't yet left a review, please take a moment and do it now. Thank you so much again for watching and for listening, and we will see you next time.